The Prayer. A very long time ago, 200,000 years, happened a very interesting story. I don't know in which part of the world this happened, because I was able to see the story in my sleep. And only God can judge how truthful this story is. I have only one reason that I want to share it with you, so that a person can see which lifestyle he lives, to show the way of the truth, to show an idol of which everyone should look up to show the laws of the God. To those who think that this story has no meaning to them, you will still remember it for the rest of your lives. The difference of that place from others was it felt like that place had no time flowing. Time was stopped. This place was unnaturally beautiful. The colorful colors, the high mountains, and the vivid blue skies. Even somebody with a cold heart could not look past the beauty of this place. There I have learned a lot that I didn't know before. In my journey through the mountain, I was lucky enough to see how the tribes were taught the truth. I overheard a conversation between a great teacher, Lamar, and his student, Itzhak. The student was just a regular person that came from this world that we live in. He wanted to start his righteous path. The understanding of the postament starts at the bottom of the diapason. I understand that you don't know what I'm talking about, but you don't need to at this point. Let it be so. I will teach you the truth and the understanding. Itzhak was standing there with a shocked face. The teacher had took him by the hand, walked him to a mountain that was about 5,000-6,000 meters tall. And this is what the teacher had told the student. You see, the truth is at the top of that mountain. Go there. And I have started to climb up the mountain, and I have started to learn about the truth. The scariest thing is I learned about myself, how scared I was, how thirsty and hungry I was climbing up this mountain. You can't even imagine what I was going through at that time, what was going on in my soul. But after I gathered myself, and I pushed through the pain, pushed through my thoughts and the fear, I have completed this challenge and stayed alive. And at that time, Lamar was standing at the bottom of the mountain, powerful and mighty as he was. He was silent, and he was waiting for his student to climb the mountain, then come back down. And only at that point, the so-called postament has been accepted by the student. This is particularly how the tribes people were taught in the third period of degradation. Of course, the teacher was happy that the student passed the first test, but he did not show any kind of emotion. He did not congratulate him. If the teacher had congratulated him, it would only get in the way of the preparation system. He had a cold steel look, and all he did was just continue the training. Itzhak, every time that you want to know the truth, you have to find a mountain to climb. But remember that every next mountain has to be higher and higher. the harder and the higher the mountain, the more truth you will understand. And that's how the tribes people were taught many, many years ago how to live fairly and truthfully, how to live by the Testament. But now we all became tribes people. And God only chooses the worthy ones and trains us to live by the Testament. A long time ago, when we were not so stupid, climbing mountains was not a necessity. Back then, when people had the abilities, they used mountains to keep themselves in tone, to keep their abilities up. Gods are supposed to live in the mountains. Gods cannot live in the plateaus. People live on the plateaus. I must say, it was extremely hard work. Gruesome tasks to create temples inside, carved in the mountains. Can you imagine what it takes to create a temple inside of a mountain 4,000 meters above the ground? And this is exactly how the second step of the training took place. The step is called the Varyag. When you finish the temple, you will become gods. For 20 years, Yitzhak tirelessly worked on the temple. He was building the temple in the mountain. At this time, he understood that there's nobody other than God, and distances don't exist in the world, because God creates the world from the top to the bottom. And there was not a doubt in the world, because himself, he was standing 4,000 meters above ground, and the whole world was beneath his feet. In this 20 years' time, he proved himself over and over again how the laws of the gods are, how the laws of the universe are. When you're in the mountain, you cannot walk like you're on the plateau. You will fall down, because you can only walk either up or down. At this point, they were giving tasks that allowed them to understand how the power of the world creation travels from the top to the bottom. At a certain point, his teacher had took him to the side of the mountain where the forest had started. He told him, "Put the blindfold on your eyes and walk." Student said, "Walk where?" Teacher said, "Just walk straight." This forest was very thick, and the student was walking around the forest with the blindfold until the moment that there was nothing that could get in his way. He reached a point to where he could solve any task. We could just imagine what was going on with him at this period of time. But after, he became even stronger, his soul became even stronger, and he continued the training. To continue the training, Lamar has found the tallest tree. It was about 40 meters long. He told Yitzhak, "Put on the blindfold, climb up the tree, then climb back down, and repeat this 10 times." Yitzhak had climbed it and had came down. His whole body was covered in bruises and cuts and thorns. The teacher had said, "Until you cannot repeat this 10 times, I will not show you anything." Yitzhak had came to the tree, he had put his palm on the tree, and it was like he became the geometry of the tree. And he climbed it 10 times, and he climbed down it 10 times. And with time, he became such a master at this that he didn't have any thorns, cuts, or bruises after he would finish this task. You have solved the task. Now, I can show you other principles. Lamar had partnered Yitzhak with another student.
видит удар мечом,
gave him
наносимый его
both
товарищем, и
swords.
так принимает геометрию
When the
меча,
other
что меч
student
прилипает к нему,
struck
как доспех.
Itzhak with the
Как
sword,
бы убили его
Itzhak
снова и снова,
became
Ицхак встраивается
part
в
of that
геометрию меча.
geometry.
Меч прилипал
It
к
was
нему.
like the sword
Как вдруг
would
он
stick
незаметно
to him,
совершил
would
обратное
stick to his
движение к
body,
движению меча
and couldn't
противника,
cut.
отчего товарищ его улетел в сторону.
It doesn't matter how much the other person tried, he couldn't do anything to Itzhak. But when Itzhak attacked, the other person flew away like he was a toothpick. On the next day, Lamar had put 5 people around him with sticks, and he had said, "Hit him with the sticks anywhere you want except for the head." And it didn't matter how much they tried. Itzhak was able to become the geometry of the sticks. The sticks were just sliding along him like he was a column. He was just turning on his legs, and all the sticks were just flying by. One of them tried to hit him in his head, but he changed the geometry of the strike, and nothing was accomplished. The grasping, the understanding of the third level of the warrior spiritual training. Name of this level is Barsek. And in the meantime, while the tribe people were building the temples, they would take breaks, and during those breaks they had learned spiritual information and knowledge. This spiritual knowledge was learned through certain tasks. Lamar at first was showing them how to accomplish leg strikes. Do you see this rock? No, not that one. This one here. That weighs no less than 30 kilograms. Yes, my teacher. Pull it out of the mountain with your legs. Every night, after he had finished building the temple, he would go to this rock and think and try to understand how he could even move this rock. This rock weighs no less than 30 kilograms. It's not even round. How am I going to roll it over to that place with my legs? How? But he found the correct spot where force should be applied, and he kicked the rock out of the mountain. And he started to roll it to his teacher. And that took half of a year. And only after that, Lamar had set the next task for him. Now use both of your legs to roll that rock. After some time, Itzhak reached such a result to where, on a small plateau, out of 5 existing rocks, he could make any configuration just with his legs. Years went by, but the construction of the temples have not ceased. The tribes people that have chosen the spiritual path were now building the stela. Their hands were covered in blood. They have already gotten used to the pain, and they did not stop. They never stopped. Itzhak, come here. Do you see this stick? With just a wave of a sword, the stick disintegrated. Then Lamar gave the sword to Itzhak and continued to talk. Did you see what happened to the stick? Take this sword and cut your arm off. How? It's simple. Just take it and cut your hand off. But teacher, I can't. Try it. Just try it. Looking past his fear and remembering the decision that he had made a long time ago, he could not say no to his teacher. He struck his arm with all his force, but his arm, it stayed unharmed. You see, this means that the sword cannot harm the human. A human that is not afraid for his body. A human that's not afraid for his body. This human is immortal. One day, Lamar was showing the principles of defense, and he had commanded to Itzhak, "Attack!" After the command, Lamar had raised his walking stick that weighed 64 kilograms with just one hand, and he stuck it in the rock, and he repeated the command. Strike! Yitzhak started to execute the strike. It looked like he was going to chop the stick in half, but somehow Lamar changed the geometry of Yitzhak's strike, and the sword went somehow around the stick. It didn't even touch it. Lamar moved alongside of the walking stick. He walked kind of around it. Yitzhak had started to execute another strike, and he for sure thought this was going to chop the stick in half. But for some reason it wasn't working. He couldn't hit the stick. He had never seen anything like this. But not only that he couldn't hit the stick with the sword, it felt like the ground had went away from under his legs, and he had to catch balance. So he grabbed the stick with his hands like a monkey. Only at that moment he understood what it is to create your own geometry, and he understood that his teacher is the example of power and strength. After living 20 years in the mountains and passing and completing all the tasks, now he had understood the world around him as it really is. And that is, the world is vertical, and time does not exist. And after putting so much effort in building the temple, he now had to protect it using weapons from tribes people, just like he used to be. But the number of people that were building the temples were much less than the attackers. But those who survived the attacks had become great warriors that no one else could compare to. Yitzhak could put down more than 30 people by himself without applying much force. Usually, those type of people that have built the temple and had passed all the tests, they were sent out into the world. Yitzhak has seen a lot, the bad, the good, and the ugly. But he was not used to living with people that lived on the plateaus. Once Lamar had said, "The mountains are ruled by the Aryan monarchy, and the plateaus are ruled by democracy. In the mountains, you cannot live by the rules of the plateau. On the plateau, everyone wants to be free." It's noticeable. When a person arrives in the plateau, he wants to be free. But when he arrives at the mountains, he grabs on to the people that know how to survive in the mountains. And the freedom is just their perception of the freedom, because they don't know the truthful meaning of freedom. A long time ago, the ignorant people were taught what is the right way of ruling and the wrong way of ruling. Because the gods live in the mountains, but the people live on the plateaus. When the gods would come to the plateau, they would live separately from the people. And that's how the wise men ended up on the plateaus. One of them was Yitzhak now. And any time somebody wanted to test his abilities and knowledge, they were always welcome to do so. And when the villagers surrounded him and continued to test his skills, they finally understood who is standing in front of them. And in the times of troubles, the villagers would go to Yitzhak so he could give them advice. But a wise person as he was, he didn't share knowledge with them. He shared his practice. But because of the distortion of the initial science, after the 6th generation, they had all the knowledge that Yitzhak had, but they didn't have any abilities. They couldn't do anything with it. Because to have the abilities like he did, they would have to be also like he was, building the temple for 20 years and then protecting it with weapons in his hands. And many of those who came to the plateau from the mountains have always returned to the mountains because the plateau just couldn't not become their home. They wanted to live in the mountains. And when they would return to the temple, they were beginning to learn a different level of science. At this time, they were already around 45, 50 years old. The level of science that they have starting to learn is equal to the soul vertically descending to the earth, which is called the vertical style of problem solving. This level is called mera. But because Itzhak's way of learning this was a specific way, his teacher had said, "Sit on the ground, look down the mountain. Now look to the top of the mountain. You see it?" "Yes, my teacher." "But what am I supposed to see?" The distance between the bottom and the top of the mountain. So right now you're on this type of level of preparation. Do you understand? Yes, I understand. Let's go to the top. We walked 24 hours to the top of that mountain, and when we arrived, my teacher told me to sit at the very tip of the mountain. Now you have a different level of preparation. Well, what kind? Look down. I understand. Allow me to ask my teacher. What should I do to keep my level of preparation and not lose it? Close your eyes, Itzhak. Which level of preparation are you at now? The level that you brought me to, my teacher. If you can walk down the mountain with your eyes closed, you will keep your level of preparation safe. After telling his fears goodbye, Itzhak looked around for the last time at the mountain that he was about to walk down without eyes. At this very moment, he took the walking stick. The teacher had tied his eyes, and with his eyes tied, the student started to walk down the mountain. And as Itzhak was walking away, his teacher thought, "Well, if he falls, he will probably kill himself, because the mountain is 5,000 meters tall. And the people will say, the one who died for the truth will go to heaven. But if he makes it to the bottom of the mountain, his spiritual eyes will open up, and he will have the full diapason spiritual vision." Yes, this is how the tribe's people were taught. Completing such a difficult descent with your eyes tied. More than half of the people that did this, well, their spiritual eyes have opened up. And just that happened to Itzhak when he had reached the bottom. Itzhak, you will never become the God that lives on earth. But you have already become half of the God. And I have the next task for you. You can become so strong that nobody in the world can overcome you. And you will be the ruler of everything, but you will have nothing. But only if you can complete this task. I'm ready, my teacher. Then listen to me. Walk up this mountain with your eyes tied. At first I was overcome with fear. I was walking up the mountain, through the cold and the wind, to an altitude of 5,000 meters. As far as I remember, at 4,000 meters starts the depletion of oxygen. With every step, I was stabbing the ground with a metal, heavy walking cane. The walking cane was around 16 kilograms. Can you imagine what was going on with my body? Along with me, there were 4 other students. but they didn't make it far. They fell down and killed themselves. And I was forced to witness this horrific accidents. And I couldn't save them, even though I really wanted to. It was painful to watch them die. After walking some time, I realized that I didn't feel the cold anymore. I didn't feel the weight of the metal walking stick, and I had plenty of oxygen. My fear became minimal, and then it disappeared, because all my thoughts were focused on reaching the goal. What could be said about the movements of Yitzhak? He became to have abilities that were not natural for a human. On the slippery ice, he was able to step without falling. His arms and his soul became very strong. He became a different person. The rest of the way, he walked with confidence. And when he reached the top, there was nothing in this world that could scare him anymore. It's hard to imagine what went on or what's going on with a human that walked up the mountain 5,000 meters with his eyes tied, while carrying a heavy metal cane. His soul became even stronger. From now on, he was so strong that he didn't experience any counter force. He walked in such a way where he didn't have to look under his feet to walk, because he was moving the mountains with his feet. And now it was time to go back down. But the metal cane he had to leave, because his teacher had said to do so. It was an amazing scenery to see this. I had to go down a completely icy glacier. I flattened out, thought it would be faster, but I wasn't sliding down the glacier for long. My back, my hands, and my face were all covered in blood. I tried many different ways to go down, because I thought it would be faster, but none of the ways made it faster. After having finished half of the way, I understood that I'm in complete control of my body. That's why I stood up on my feet, and the rest of the way, I walked regularly. Once in a while, I did stop to take breaks. At one point, I have just woken up and was about to continue walking down. But the crazy fear had overcome me. I even wanted to rip off this blindfold, but it didn't work. It was like it was grown into my face. Mixed with cold and blood, it was stuck to my face and I couldn't get it off. But while I was trying to rip it off, the fear had disappeared, and I continued to walk, and I reached the point, and I have been named Vladi. On one of the days of my arrival, I saw a picture. I don't think I will ever forget it. The sun was abnormally bright that day, and the beauty of this place, like always, overwhelmed. The icy mountain tops were glistening and changing colors like the rainbow. It was like they were made from crystal and sprinkled with pieces of the sun. Between all this beauty, there was a wide open space, and there was 400 people gathered there. That all of those people have reached the 4th level called Vladi. And they were not just regular people, they were like gods. It was very quiet, but not for long. And all of a sudden, very loud steps were heard far away. And the closer they have gotten, it seemed like the blood was turning inside the veins. And then appeared Lamar. He had a walking stick that was 4 times his height, and it weighed 64 kilograms. But that didn't get in the way of him stabbing it into the rocky mountain without putting much force into it. And the surrounding mountains had shaken, and Lamar had said very loudly, "Remember, down there on the plateaus, the Tsars become the ones who were not able to die in battle." It seemed like time had stopped, and his words had pierced through everything surrounding us. Yitzhak looked around at all his friends. They were all half-gods, and they agreed to keep it that way. But only Yitzhak decided to become part of God. The teacher at this time continued, "The ones that bow down to Tsars are ones that cannot look at this world from the top of the mountain. If you wake up from your long sleep, any task, you will be able to complete anything. But you must remember, there has to be the good and the bad in this world. To keep the balance of this world. It's impossible for an animal to become a human if the animal doesn't want to. Think about it. Is a regular tribesman one that was never blessed? One that has lust, passion, and rage. One that has greed and envy. And the one that hates the people that are just like him. And the one that only loves to fulfill the needs that his body asks for. Would this type of person be able to take some kind of action in the name of others? Yitzhak is 50 years old by now. His level of preparation is Vladi. Many times in his lifetime he fell, like all the other people. But what differed him from others is that he was a real person. And because of this reason, after he had fallen, very soon he had stood back up. And this is not natural for somebody who has raised the demon inside them. There is a last step that you're able to achieve. Just imagine, you can become more than you are right now. More? But what could be more than half God? But I'm a tribesman. In my case, I cannot become something more than a half God. Of course, you cannot become God. But you can become part of God. What do I have to do for this, my teacher? Awaits you the descent, where your tribes people also live right now. It's a very hard task, Yitzhak. I don't even know how to tell you this. Because even if you make one small mistake, you will lose everything that you have now. That's why maybe it's in your interest to leave it at being a half-god. No, my teacher. I want to be part of God. Then listen, and listen carefully, because I'm not going to repeat myself. Go out and find a country that is fighting a war. There's many of those. And your duty is to die for God with the weapons in your hands. But remember, if you don't give it your all, then it will not work. Your death in battle has to be real. If you will have just a tiny bit of pity for the other side, you will lose everything, and you will remain always on the plateau. I'm ready, my teacher. Go on. Lamar had said his goodbyes,
ибо теперь
because this was
прощались
the
они
last
навсегда.
time he would see Yitzhak. He would
Не
never
возвратится
return,
больше Ицхак.
and
И
they
в
would
этом
never
мире
meet
не
again on this
суждено им
earth.
более повстречаться.
Yitzhak walked for a very long time until he found two governments that were fighting a war against each other. He could hear the screams of people that were suffering, and there was dead bodies everywhere. Here everything was mixed together. The truth, fairness and honor, with benefits and lies, and greed. The people have mixed with the ground, and most of them had become animals. The rain was not coming from the sky. The rain was coming from the tears and the blood of the people. The Tsar here was terror and suffering, despair and pain, and it seemed like it would never end. And just imagine, through all this hell on earth, Yitzhak had walked to the general of one of the armies and asked, "Allow me to join your army and fight alongside with your warriors." Well, do you know how to fight? You can put me through a test, if you really want to see. And it doesn't matter how many people were fighting against Yitzhak. Nobody was equal to him. It took just 1 second for Yitzhak to end the life of the other soldiers. After the general had witnessed this, he allowed him to stay and fight. If you wish to fight, then go ahead and fight for me. Allow me to just fight, not for you, but on your side. We all have separate goals. You're not gonna lose anything. I'm gonna fight your enemy with utmost rage. It was decided. Yitzhak had thrown himself in the epicenter of every battle. He was setting unreachable goals for himself, but he just couldn't die. He was fighting full force in the places where definitely he should have died. But he couldn't die. At once he decided to take on the whole army by himself, and he asked the general, "Allow me to start the war." Of course, he said, "Go ahead." A desert with no edges. Two armies that filled it, standing one in front of another. All the warriors, they all had spears. The tips of the spears were pointing up. Yitzhak had moved forward. He took a step, and another. He grabbed the horse and made him run. It was amazing, the way he jumped on the horse. And now he was galloping full speed towards the other army. He jumped off the horse and was flying through the air towards the spears, flat. It was sure. This is where he meets his death. But because his body went through all the gruesome training, he became part of the geometry of the spears. It was almost like liquid. And when everybody cleared away to see, they all expected him to be pierced by the spears. But no, he was standing firmly on his feet, with two spears in his hands. He started the fight first. One against
Ицхак перемещал руки
everybody.
по древку копья незаметными
It was an
резкими
amazing sight to
движениями.
see.
Как только враг намерен
Ицхак was
атаковать со
moving his
спины,
hands
Ицхак наносит
swiftly to
один
the end of the
скользящий
spear.
удар копьем из-за шеи и
When the
попадает
attack would
точно
come
в
from the
голову,
back,
словно
Ицхak
точнейший
sliding
удар
the
бильярдным
spear
кием.
by his
Иной
shoulder
враг
would
атакует в лоб.
stick the attacker right in the head.
Ицхак выстраивает копье параллельно
attackers that were
земле и
attacking
наносит
from the front.
прямой удар.
Well, Ицхak would make the spear parallel to the ground
Будто он
and attack
сражается,
them.
играя.
It seemed like he
Метко
was just
управляя копьем,
playing.
нанося
He was
четкие,
playing in
очерченные
battle.
удары мгновенно
Everything
и
was so
незаметно.
strict, fast,
Сломив
and right on the
порядке
spot.
врага,
It was
Ицхак
amazing.
скомандовал: «В
After Ицhak
атаку!»
had broke down the barriers of the defense, he had commanded, "Attack!" In the matter of 1 hour, the enemy's army has been destroyed, but Icchak has stayed alive.
В течение часа
And
армия
the same thing
противника была
happened in the
разгромлена.
next battle,
Ицхак же
and the
остался
next
жив.
battle. The body of
Так
Icchak
было и в следующем сражении.
was so
И
trained
еще одном.
that he
Тело
could not
Ицхака было
die.
так натренировано, что умереть он просто не мог.
Meantime, a group of people had gathered around Icchak. A group of people that didn't want to die in battle.
Тем временем в армии, за
After they
которую он
witnessed the
сражался,
way he was
вокруг
fighting
Ицхака собралось
and
некоторое
how
число людей, вовсе не
immortal he
желающих
was,
погибнуть в этой войне.
they had asked him
Видя, как
to
сражается
teach them
Ицхак, насколько
how
он
to be good
бессмертен и
warriors like
силен,
he was.
люди эти пришли к нему
And
с
this is
просьбой
how
научить их
a
ратному
group
делу,
of people
чтобы
inside
тоже
the
остаться
army
в живых. Итак, в самой
ended up
армии возникло
looking
горстка
very
людей,
differently.
сильно
They ended up being
отличающихся от
different
остальных
from the
воинов.
rest of the army. Very soon it
Вскоре
became more and
число
more.
их возросло.
And very soon,
И,
the
наконец,
whole
вся
army
армия
was standing in
предстала
front of
перед
Icchak.
Ицхаком.
We don't
Мы не
want to
хотим
fight for
сражаться за
our
нашего
general.
предводителя. Позволь нам
Icchak,
сражаться за
allow
тебя,
us to
Ицхак.
fight for you.
Я не могу
No,
стать вашим
I
предводителем,
cannot do this.
так как следует
I have a
иной
different
дорогой.
goal. Even
Не
if I
могу
wanted
исполнить вашу
to,
просьбу,
I
как бы
could
того ни
not
желал.
let
Знаете,
you do this.
истинный воин
A
никогда
true
не
warrior
предаст своей
cannot
цели,
forget about the goal
ибо
that he
иначе он
has.
воином называться
Because if he does, then he's not a
недостоин.
true warrior.
Ты заслужил нашу
You have
любовь и
earned our
уважение.
love and our
Так оправдай
respect.
наши надежды.
Give us what we
Позволь
hope
нам жить
for.
счастливо, Ицхак.
Allow us to live
С таким
happily.
предводителем, как
With
ты,
somebody like
на
you
нас
with
никто
us,
нападать не захочет.
nobody will want
Ты
to attack
сильнее и
us.
умнее всех, кого нам когда-либо
You are
доводилось
stronger and
встречать.
smarter than anyone we have ever met.
Тут
And
Ицхак
here Icchak
задумался.
started thinking. He
Отказаться
could
от
not
намерения стать
step away
частью
from
Бога он не
his
мог.
goal of becoming part of God.
Однако остаться равнодушным
But
к
to not
просьбе
give
этих
these
людей
people
тоже
what they
было бы
asked for would
несправедливо.
also not be fair. I have
Я
taught
научил
many of
многих
you
из
how
вас
to
делу
fight.
разному.
I can
Многих из
call
вас я могу
many of
назвать
you
справедливыми.
fair.
Многих из
Many
вас
of
я
you
спас
I
в сражении.
saved your lives in battle.
А теперь же прошу
You
помощи
need
вашей.
my glory, and I need
Вам нужна моя
death.
слава?
So help
нужна
me,
смерть.
like I have helped you
Помогите мне, как
many,
помогал
many
вам я
times
не
before.
единожды.
Put
Предайте
me to
меня
death.
казни.
Because if you do,
Ежели вы меня
you know
казните,
all your enemies
а все
know
враги
how
знают,
strong I
насколько
am.
я силен,
And if
им
you
будет
put me to
невдомек
death,
нападать на вас.
they will never attack
Коль уж
you.
вы меня победить смогли,
Because
значит,
if you were
им
able to
не
beat
победить
me,
вас
then
никогда.
they will know they
Но
will
как
never
враг
beat you.
узнает об этом?
But how will our
Покажите им
enemy
меня
know
мертвого.
about this?
Надобно, чтобы
They
все
need
враги
to
пришли
all
и
come
именно
and
увидели
see
меня
me dead.
мертвым. Тогда и наступит
And
мир
that's when
на
peace
землях ваших.
will come to your land.
Но как же мы
But
тебя
how will we put you
казним?
to death? Nail me to a cross,
Прибейте меня к
then
кресту,
kill me,
затем
and
убейте
leave
и
me to
оставьте
hang
висеть
on
на
the
кресте.
cross.
И пусть враги
And
ваши
allow
придут
all your
и
enemies
увидят
to
это.
come and see this. All the warriors were
Воины
quiet.
застыли.
They didn't have any
Не
words
было
to
у них
answer
слов,
to
чтобы
Icchak.
ответить Ицхаку.
That's why they just stood
Стояли
silently
молча
and
и
looked at
смотрели на
him.
него.
They
Не
didn't
хотелось
want to
ему
kill a
убить человека,
human
не
that
единожды
saved their
спасшего
lives
жизнь
many, many
и
times
научившего их
and has
многому.
taught them
Но
many
отказать
things.
в
But to
единственном
say
его
no
прошении,
to
пускай
the
и
only
столь странном,
request he had,
совестно было им.
they could not.
И после сего молчания
And after the silence,
один
one
из
of them
них
had said,
молвил:
I understand you, Yitzhak.
Я понял тебя, Ицхак.
But this is going to be a lie that everybody knows about.
Это ложь,
No,
что всем известно.
only the people that live
Знают о том
in
только
this city
жители
know
города
about it.
вашего.
Kill
Убейте
them
их
all,
всех, и никому
and no
более
one will
правда
ever
не
know
станет
the
ведомо.
truth.
Никогда.
Many
Многие
of the
из племенных
tribesmen
людей
have
стали
reached the level of
полубогами,
half-gods.
оставшись в живых.
Some of them died when
Кто-то
they fell from
разбился
the
при
mountain,
восхождении,
and only one
лишь один
had the
имел
need and
намерение
the goal
своим
to become a
частью
part of
Бога
God.
стать. И должно
And
сказать,
he had enough manliness
мужества и
and
отваги
courage to
ему
do
на то
so.
хватило.
Yitzhak had
Нашел
found his
Ицхак
death.
великую
in the
смерть
fight
свою
against
в
the whole
неравном
city.
бою против всего города.
He never changed
Он не
his goal,
изменил своей цели,
as he could
хотя
have
мог стать
become
царем и
the
жить в
tsar of
роскоши,
that
властвуя над
government
государством одним.
and live rich and
Невзирая на
wealthy.
то, он
And instead of
отказался
becoming a ruler
и
and having power, he chose
предпочел
death
смерть во имя людей,
in the
с
name
которыми
of the
стал
people that
братьям,
became like brothers
во
to
имя
him,
народа,
in the
который
name of the
защищал.
people that he was protecting.
Не знали границ
There were no
необычайной
barriers
силы и
for the truth
премудрость
and the honor of this
истинного и
warrior.
доблестного воина,
He has ended his life
достойным
on this
поступком,
planet
завершившим
with a very
пребывание
worthy
свое
action.
на земле.
Сколько лет мы прожили без славы, запоздав немного в этот раз. Разве был бы этот ад кровавый, если мы бы правили сейчас? Каждый человек усилием воли много может сделать каждый миг. Только вот чего-то ждет, не зная доли, положившись на других. В этот раз благословением Бога каждый среди нас за всех ответь. Или для чего была дорога сквозь века опасности? И ведь синей птицей нам судьба кружится, проверяя каждого излом. Только вот никто не может скрыться за закрытыми станинами окон. Большинство из вас не сдюжат жизни. Снова будут жить, как в первый раз, бытие свое считая укоризной, проклиная Бога каждый раз. Только ты разбейся хоть от злости. На земле спасения нет. Выход невелик. Или на погосте, или в светлый мир богов, святых и лик.